My parents bought the house for the isolation. Clean air, peace and quiet, my dad would say, gesturing out the panoramic living room window at the endless sea of pine and birch that surrounded our property. For me and my younger brother Leo, it just meant we had a bigger playground. We were city kids transplanted to the middle of nowhere, and the woods became our kingdom. Leo was 10, I was 17. That 7-year gap meant I was less of a brother and more of a permanent, legally mandated babysitter. But I didn't mind. He was a good kid, quiet, imaginative, with eyes the color of a summer sky and a spray of freckles across his nose that he hated but my mom adored. The day it happened was unremarkable. The sky was the color of a dull nickel, heavy with the promise of the first big snow. I was on the porch trying to get a bar of service on my phone while Leo was at the edge of the woods building one of his signature stick and moss forts. My mom called out from the kitchen, "Alex, keep an eye on him. Don't let him wander too far." "Got it," I yelled back, not taking my eyes off the screen. That's the part that eats me alive at night. I didn't look up, not for 5 minutes, maybe 10. When I finally did, the edge of the woods was empty. My heart didn't just drop, it vaporized. "Leo!" I screamed, my voice cracking. "Leo, this isn't funny!" Silence. Only the soughing of the wind through the pines. We searched for 3 days. The local sheriff's department, volunteers from the nearest town, my frantic parents and me. The snow came that first night, thick and wet, blanketing everything, erasing any tracks, any hope. My dad's face aged a decade. My mom just sat in Leo's room holding his favorite stuffed wolf, her eyes vacant. On the morning of the fourth day, as the search parties were losing steam and the cold dread of acceptance was settling over our house like a funeral shroud, he came back. He was just standing on the back porch, shivering, his jeans torn and muddy. His sky blue eyes looked huge in his pale face. My mum let out a sound I'll never forget, a ragged, tearing sob of pure relief, and crushed him in a hug. My dad was crying. I was crying. We had our miracle. At the hospital, they said he was fine. Mild dehydration, a few scratches, a slight case of hypothermia. He couldn't remember anything about the 3 days he was gone. "It's like I fell asleep," he whispered, his voice hoarse. Dissociative amnesia, the doctor called it, a trauma response. It made sense. But when we got him home, the cracks started to show. It was small things at first, things I told myself were just part of the trauma. Leo was a notoriously picky eater. He hated peas, called them green, mushy balls of gross. The night he came back, my mum made his favourite, mac and cheese with hot dogs. She put a small scoop of peas on the side out of habit, and he ate them, all of them, without a word. When I pointed it out, he just looked at me with those wide blue eyes and said, "I like peas." He used to have a specific way he'd run down the stairs, a chaotic, thumping rhythm of heel-toe jump on the last step. Now he descended with a silent, even gait, each foot placed deliberately. It was more efficient, I guess, but it wasn't Leo. The freckles were wrong. I know how insane that sounds. I spent hours staring at old photos on my phone. The constellation of brown specks on his face was a map I knew by heart. Now it was rearranged. A dot that should have been under his left eye was now closer to his nose. It was a forgery, a damn good one, but a forgery nonetheless. I tried to tell my parents, but they looked at me like I was losing my mind. "Alex, he's been through a trauma," my mom said, her voice strained. "Give him time. Don't make him feel weird." The real terror began at night. Our rooms were next to each other. I'd always been able to hear him, the soft snores, the rustle of him turning in his sleep. Now, there was nothing. Just a profound, unnatural silence from his room. One night, a week after he returned, I couldn't take it anymore. I crept out of my bed and pushed his door open a crack. He wasn't in his bed. The blankets were pristine. I felt a surge of panic, thinking he'd wandered off again, but then I saw him. He was standing in the corner of the room, facing the wall, perfectly still. He wasn't crying, he wasn't fidgeting, he was just standing. "Leo?" I whispered. His head turned. It didn't turn like a person's head. It rotated on his neck with a slow, fluid motion, like an owl's, his body remaining perfectly rigid. His eyes found me in the dark, and they weren't reflecting the moonlight from the window. They seemed to be faintly, dimly lit from within. And then he smiled. It wasn't Leo's smile. Leo's smile was a lopsided, goofy thing. This was a wide, symmetrical crescent that stretched his mouth too far, showing too many teeth. It was a predator's smile, the smile of something that was pretending to be a little boy. I slammed the door, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought I might vomit. I scrambled back into my bed, pulling the covers over my head like a little kid, every primal fear I've ever had roaring to life. I didn't sleep. The next morning, he was at the breakfast table, happily munching on cereal, asking me if I wanted to play video games later. He acted like nothing had happened. The trauma explanation was wearing thin, stretched to its breaking point. I started watching him, really watching him. I saw how his eyes would follow a bird outside the window, not with childlike curiosity, but with a still, calculating intensity. I saw him pick up a beetle in the garden, cradle it gently in his palm, and then, when he thought no one was looking, slowly and methodically pull its legs off, one by one, his expression utterly blank. The breaking point came yesterday. I was looking for a photo album in the basement. My parents were in town, and Leo, or the thing I was calling Leo in my head, was upstairs in his room, being quiet. Too quiet. The basement was our storage space, clammy and smelling of damp earth and mothballs. Tucked behind a stack of old winter tires, I found it. Not the photo album. It was a pile of his clothes, the muddy, torn jeans, and the t-shirt he was wearing the day he disappeared. They were caked in dried mud and something else, something dark and flaky, and there was a smell, a coppery, sweet, rotten smell that made my stomach clench. As I held the shirt up in the dim light of the single bare bulb, something fell out of the pocket. It was a tooth, a small, milky white baby tooth, a molar. Leo had lost all his baby teeth years ago. My blood ran cold. I heard a floorboard creak upstairs, directly above my head. It was no longer being quiet. I dropped the clothes and backed away, my eyes darting towards the stairs. I knew, with a certainty that was as solid and cold as a block of ice in my gut, that it knew I was down here. It knew I'd found something. The basement door at the top of the stairs creaked open. A sliver of light cut through the gloom. I didn't see anything at first, just a shadow blocking the light. "Alex?" it called down. The voice was perfect. It was Leo's voice, full of childish innocence. "Mom and Dad are home. They want you to come up for dinner." A lie. I had their Find My Phone locations pulled up on my phone. They were still 20 miles away. "I'm busy, Leo," I croaked, my voice trembling. The shadow at the top of the stairs shifted. "Don't call me that," it said. And the voice was different now. It was layered, a low guttural rumble beneath Leo's high-pitched tone, like two sounds playing at once. He didn't like it. My mind raced, looking for an escape. There was only one other way out of the basement, a small, grimy window high up on the foundation wall that led to the backyard, currently buried under a foot of snow. "What are you?" I whispered, backing towards the far wall. The thing at the top of the stairs finally moved, descending into the light of the single bulb. Its descent was wrong. It wasn't walking. It was crawling down the walls, its limbs elongating, bending at impossible angles, its joints making soft, wet, popping sounds. Its face was still Leo's, but it was pulled taut over a frame that was too large, too angular. The smile was back, wider than ever. "We are the ones who listen," it rasped, the two voices scraping against each other. "We hear the lonely children in the woods. We hear the mothers who weep for them, and we give them back what they lost. It dropped the last few feet, landing on the concrete floor in a crouch. The impact made a sound not of flesh and bone, but of something dense and hard hitting the ground. It straightened up, its form shifting and resettling, bones cracking and grinding as it tried to force itself back into the too small shape of my brother. "We just borrow the skin," it said, its face contorting. "It gets a little stretched out, but parents are so happy to see them again, they never notice." It took a step towards me, and in that moment, I saw its hands. The fingers were too long, ending not in fingernails, but in sharp, yellowed tips, like shards of bone. I didn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat. I turned and scrambled, clawing my way up a stack of storage boxes to get to a small basement window. I smashed the glass with my elbow, ignoring the searing pain as shards sliced into my arm. Behind me, I heard a terrible, wet, tearing sound. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I squeezed through the narrow opening, the broken glass tearing at my clothes and skin, and burst out into the freezing night air. I ran. I ran blindly through the deep snow, away from the warm lights of my house, which no longer felt like home, but a predator's den. I didn't stop until my lungs were on fire and my legs gave out, collapsing into a snowdrift at the edge of the dark woods. As I lay there, sobbing and bleeding, I looked back at the house. A figure stood in Leo's bedroom window. It was small, silhouetted against the light. It raised a hand and gave me the special wave Leo and I always used, a goofy three-fingered wiggle, a final mocking message. That's when I saw them, half buried in the snow near the tree line, where the search parties had somehow missed them. Other piles of discarded children's clothing, a small red parka, a single pink boot, a child's backpack with a faded cartoon character on it. This thing hadn't just taken Leo, it had been harvesting here for years. I don't know what to do. I'm huddled in the dark, my phone battery at 3%. I can't go back to that house. I can't call the police. What would I even tell them? They would think I'm crazy, or worse, that I hurt my own family. I'm posting this from a gas station Wi-Fi hotspot 10 miles down the road. I need to warn someone, anyone. Don't trust the miracles. Don't trust the ones who come back from the woods. They learn from what they take, and they are so, so hungry. I think it knows I got away. I think it knows I know. And I think it's coming for a new skin.